Hello, friends. I am here with Jenny in the studio. And I do have to say that her reputation precedes her here on Kim and Friends because I talk about Dr. Jenny almost as much as I talk about Bestie Claire. So I'm really excited that we have finally, after maybe 3 times of rescheduling, have been able to make this come to fruition. So Jenny is a mama to Willa and Gertie. She is also a pet mama to Clove, Ray, and Luna, which are her dogs, and Jenny, aka the Fat Cheeto, who is also her soulmate. She received her medical degree from St. Louis University. She's a primary care physician at a teaching hospital here in St. Louis, where she also holds the title of Associate Professor and Medicine Associate Division Chief. She specializes in preventative medicine, chronic disease management, and LGBTQIA plus health. And I cannot not mention that she is also quite the accomplished runner. So, hey, Jenny, I'm happy you're here
Hello.
today.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
How are you doing?
Good. Good. It's Friday. It's the end of spring break. It's finally sunny. I ran this morning outside, so I feel like there's literally nothing better than looping Forest Park in the sunshine. It's like an immediate mood booster.
Yup. How many miles did you run?
10 and a half.
10 and a half. I was waiting for you to be like, just 10 or something.
No, 10 and a half. I thought it was going to be 11, but called it at 10 and a half. So, and it was a special run. I got to run with my coach and a good friend, which is not a frequent occurrence. So it's always really extra fun to get to run with somebody else.
Well, we're going to talk about her a little bit because I
Yep.
know her too.
Yep.
We have quite a few fabulous women in common.
We do.
So, I want to get into how we met. I want to discuss your running and your support team with all of that, with your prep. I'm going to pump you for all the medical advice you can give us, especially in regards to like peri and menopause and just sort of helping women navigate a system that doesn't necessarily feel like it's set up for us. And of course, we're going to tap into being girl moms, what that means to us. And you've agreed to open up a little bit about your divorce as well.
Mhm.
But first, since I just mentioned that you work at a teaching hospital, I would love it if you could explain the difference between working with a provider at a teaching hospital as opposed to private practice and what the benefits might be from your perspective as a physician and then also as a patient.
Sure. So, when I think about teaching hospitals, or academic medical centers, typically they are practices or hospitals or physician groups that are associated with a medical school. So, when we talk about trainees or learners, that's typically medical students, so people who are in medical school. And then we will have residents and fellows, and those are people who have finished medical school. They are doctors, but they are continuing their training to learn more within different specialties. So that can be something like internal medicine. After internal medicine, you can then become a cardiologist or an endocrinologist who does things like diabetes. You can be a surgeon. So we, who are faculty, have finished medical school, have finished our training, and then now we work with trainees. And so I think, well, one, I'm a big believer in evidence-based medicine, which I know we're going to talk more about. Um, but one of the cool and challenging things about medicine is it is constantly changing. So we are constantly learning about new treatments. We are learning about things that we thought were really great, and maybe now there's something better, or maybe now that we've had something around for a long time, maybe it isn't as great as we thought. And so, because it's something that's constantly evolving, we as physicians or anybody who provides healthcare, I think it is kind of our responsibility to keep up with some of that. Um, but that's a huge ask, right? So you go to work all day, and then are we supposed to spend all of our time reading? I think a lot of us do read a lot. I mean, there's podcasts, there's a lot of different ways to get information. But for me, one of the great things about working with learners is that they are learning right now what we know the best evidence and the best medicine is. And so there's all the reading that I do. And then I also get the benefit of working with, yes, they're a student, um, but they're getting the most cutting edge stuff now. And so as a patient, one, you get multiple eyes laid on you. I will say I always am very grateful to my patients. I was grateful as a student. I'm grateful now as a faculty member, when they take the time and really like talk with medical students and spend time with them, because there is really no greater way to learn medicine than by working with patients. So for those who do go to academic medical centers, we owe you a huge debt of gratitude, because that's how that's how we all learn. So I think that's really important to note. But you as a patient, you get to be seen by multiple eyes. Um, I think I'm a really good doctor, but I will say,
I
um, I
agree.
have s- I have students who will say like, "Hey, why are we doing this?" Or, "Oh, that guideline, I thought that guideline changed." And so for me, that's awesome, because that helps me make sure that I'm giving my patients the best, most up-to-date care that they can have. I think the other thing is, academic medical centers is where the research takes place. So a lot of people who are there, like they are physicians, they may also be researchers. So that's where like new treatments come from, new drugs come from. And so, one, you get the benefit of that cutting edge treatment. But I also think then that the people who are taking care of you are people who really like live a career of curiosity, and so they're curious about like, how can we make things better? How can we deliver care better? How can we find treatments that are better, that treat diseases but don't, like chemotherapy, for example, that really targets certain cancers but doesn't hurt a bunch of healthy tissue. And so you get somebody who comes to see you in a mindset of curiosity, which I think is just a really, I mean, I think that's a great way to approach life in general. But I think as somebody who's seeking healthcare, that's what you want. You want somebody who's open, who wants to hear what you have to say, who thinks about it from different angles, and is versed in what we know now, but is also open to thinking about like, maybe what we don't know this, but like, how could this be? So I'm a big proponent of academic medical centers. I get my healthcare at an academic medical center. My kids get their healthcare there. My family members do. So I think it's a really awesome place to work, to get care. And I just want to say I really am grateful to everybody who comes there, because that is how we advance medicine and make healthcare better for everybody.
Well, I'm sold.
That was a really long answer. Sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, it's working out well for me. I will say that. And I, previous to being your patient, basically Scrubs, the show Scrubs was my only experience with an academic
I've
medical
not
setting.
seen Scrubs, but I have heard it is one of the most accurate academic or medical shows. And I mean, I know The Pit, that's like a hot show now. Not 100% accurate, because they never are, but also like there's a lot of stuff in there that is pretty spot on. So
I have heard that, especially with the new season out, they're saying that Scrubs is like lauded as the most accurate medical
yeah,
show. And then The Pit, we watched season one, but we're waiting for all of season two to be out because we made the mistake of starting it and then we had to like wait every week for the episode. And I will
no
say
good.
that show is very bingeable. It is
Yeah,
very good in like 3 and 4 hour segments at a time.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about me and you. Let's tell everybody how we met. So I met Jenny at work, similar to Margaret. And I can't remember when you started coming there. You were going to a different studio and then you started coming to ours. Was it 2021 or 2022?
I think it was 21. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it was February of 21, because it was right around my birthday.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 21.
Okay. And she's an early morninger, like
Yep.
Margaret, the 5, sometimes the 6:10, but I feel like you settled into a pretty regular 5 a.m.
5 again, 5 a.m.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts when we first met.
So, I always like to say, because I talk to a lot of women about this, about exercise, and I think there's a lot of different seasons in our lives that we go through with exercise and our health. And so I was athlete in high school. And then, I went to medical school, had kids. So I didn't really get back into exercising until my younger daughter was about 3.5. Um, and one of my residents, so like another plug for academic medical centers, one of my residents was like, "You should come and try this gym with me." And so I did, and it stuck because I just wanted to show up and have somebody tell me what to do. I did not want to make any additional decisions. I couldn't even decide, like, should I run left or right out of my house? So, um, I ended up in your studio, and I loved the variety. I loved feeling strong. I had never really lifted before, so like I loved feeling strong. I liked going fast on a treadmill, which is I don't know why I do endurance running now, but I like going fast. And honestly, though, I think the best part and what I probably miss the most now is the community. Like everybody rolled in at 5 a.m. and in those like, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes before class started, everybody chit chatted. We got to know people. We ended up like, making friends that you would do stuff outside the studio with. It was awesome. It was
Well,
great. The community was the seller. Community was the
I
seller.
miss having you in class. I
I know,
definitely
me
miss
too.
having you. Are you lifting at all right now, or are you just running?
Oh no, I'm lifting. I'm lifting. I got it handed to me by my coach when I decided I didn't want to lift anymore because that's really not helpful, which one is not true. Then I got hurt and then I got hurt again. And so I'm on the lifting train and I've only missed one lift day since the start of 2026, which I'm very proud of. So actually I'm gonna go lift after this podcast. So nope, I am on it. I'm on
Good.
with lifting.
Well, you know what I say, if you're not doing it with me, I just want people moving. I want people moving their bodies. If you're moving, you're winning. So I'm glad you're getting it done, even if it's not with me.
Getting it done.
So yeah, we very much connected. And then Margaret was already there. So you formed a friendship with Margaret. You were one of those people next to her, pushing her to lift heavier, her pushing you to lift heavier. Those were some good times, those early
Yeah.
2020s in the studio. And were you running marathons before then, or is that something that started after 2021?
No, I'm a late to life marathoner, I like to say. And I would blame it 100% on Stephanie, who I ran with today, who's my coach and friend. After I joined your gym, probably, I don't know, maybe a month in, she was a coach there and she came up to me and said, "You seem fast. Do you want to run this relay with us?" And I was like, "Sure." I had no further information about that. I had participated in one 5K ever. But I was really flattered that she thought I was fast. And so I just committed with no further information, which is pretty on brand for how I sign up for races now. And so I ran the Katie 82 relay, which is one of my most favorite events every year. And it was like the first really organized race I did. And then I was like, this seems pretty fun. And these women I ran with are pretty cool. And I guess I'll just do some running.
And now how
So
many marathons have you done?
just four.
Just four. Did you go right into marathons, or did you do like a half and then into the full?
I did a half, and which was fine. It was pretty good. It was much better than I thought it was going to be. And then I asked Steph if she would really train me for a half for real, because I thought maybe I would run a marathon, but only if it was a major world marathon, because otherwise that sounds stupid. Like that sounds horrible. So you could qualify for New York at the time on a half marathon. So I thought I would try to qualify. Um, so I ran this half marathon and I did qualify. And so then I had signed up to run another half marathon. So I thought, well, if I could run this half marathon, I guess I'll just go ahead and run a whole marathon. And that was it. That was the bug.
So you
It's
did
a
New York was your first one?
No, I've never run New York. So I also learned after that there are so few spots for time qualifiers for New York that if you time qualify, you still have to get like 20 minutes after that. So I have to do a sub 3. And I'm not quite there yet. Although we
Okay.
talked about it today. So no, I've done Boston twice, I've done Chicago, and then I did a race out in Washington State was my first marathon. So
Awesome. Well, y'all are freaking badasses. Y'all know how I feel about running. I'm very
I gotta
impressed.
I
Very
gotta tell you though,
impressed.
the marathoning and training for it and all of that, like it is just like one giant metaphor for your life. Like if you need an activity that you could have everything be a metaphor for your life, I think it is endurance racing. So I
I
don't know, I've
just
learned a lot.
realized my friend texted me, I think it was 2 days ago. I did my first bodybuilding show 15 years ago. this week. And that was like, it's strange. It feels like it could have been 300 years ago. And it also feels like it was yesterday. And that prep process, like I ended up doing like 5 shows in total. And the preps were, were anywhere from like 14 to like 23 weeks. Or then one time I did like a show and then went right into another prep and did another show. So it was like basically over half my year being in that, arduous prep mode. And I think that I could say it's similar. It's very much a metaphor for life as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my experience, not so positive. I know that running has been a much better positive outlet for you than bodybuilding was for me, but hot damn. Okay, so you talked a little bit about your injuries. Are you injured right now? How are you doing?
No, I'm not getting injured anymore. I'm
That's such good
manifesting it.
news.
I'm not getting injured anymore. I will say, I know you had Margaret on here, who is one of my good friends. I would say is like my spirit guide life coach also. But she has been a huge helper to me in the nutrition space. I actually was really under fueling. I didn't really understand how much you need to eat, especially like when you're really in the like peak of marathoning. And she's been hugely helpful. I mean, she really meets you where you are, and it's kind of like, this is my lifestyle. I'm one of those people who just will eat the same thing. I need like 3 options and I will just eat the same thing over and over. But she's amazing, and really helped me figure out like how to get all of the nutrition that I needed, um, in food that I like and is easy and fits in with what I can do. So that's been a very big learning curve for me. But I think that's been a huge like, that's why people get hurt, is they don't eat enough.
Well,
So
how quickly. I mean, that's pretty instant gratification when you start fueling your body properly, the way it will heal itself, and your recovery time is so much quicker, and you're not just like,
yeah.
white knuckling through runs. Like, I'm sure it was pretty quick, huh? Once you started eating more and eating the right things, wasn't it?
I mean, you feel better. I feel like, I mean, it's hard. Like all the marathon and like endurance training is hard. But you don't feel so like constantly run down, I
Mhm.
would say. And I think the other piece of that is also learning. And here's like a life metaphor: learning to go slow so you can go fast. I think that's the other piece of it. But that nutrition part was huge.
Well, and this circles back to the bodybuilding because in opposition to bodybuilding, as you're getting closer and closer and closer to your performance, you are getting fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer calories. And I think as an endurance athlete, you're probably ramping up
Yep.
or maintaining or carb loading, whereas we are carb fasting, like literally removing even hydration from our diets for
Yeah.
that performance, which definitely being up on stage posing for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes is physically taxing. I will not claim that it's as physically taxing as running a marathon. But yeah, some carbs would probably help
Yeah.
if the carbs bloated you and made you not look good on stage.
It's a lot of carbs, man. It's a lot more carbs than I thought.
Yeah, which is nice, but also hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I know
When somebody,
nobody feels sorry for you though. Nobody's like, "Oh, you're on a high carb diet." No one cares.
and then you're like, try to eat 550 carbs in a day. Like,
Yes, it's a
just
lot.
just do it one day. Just try.
Yes.
And it's not like we're just having the carbs. It's also all the protein too.
Yeah.
And then trying to get the right amount of fat, but not too much fat. It's like if I could
Yeah.
have all the fats in the world, this would be easy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a full-time job tracking your food. Okay, so you have Marge as part of your support network. You've got Stephanie who's doing all your programming. She tells you how much to run, how long to run, when, also does your weightlifting programming. So, and you met them both taking classes
Hmm.
where I work. So, talk to me a little bit about like sort of that community that you were speaking to before.
Well, the other I would say big person in my community who I also met in class is my friend Kelsey. Um, I spend a lot of time in Kelsey's basement. I think I spend more time on Kelsey's treadmill than on the treadmill in my own house. I I think that I mean running has been an amazing community. It's really been an amazing community of women. And I think, I mean, you talk about this a lot on your show about like there's diet culture, there's body image culture. It's a very just real group of people who are very open about like their own struggles, very supportive of each other. Um, I feel very lucky to have that. I think I said this to somebody the other day that I think that the people that I am the closest to now are the vast majority of them are people that I have met within the last probably 5 to 6 years, which I think is so funny because there's so many like, these are all my friends from growing up. Like my most core group of friends are people that I probably have met in the last 6 years. A lot of them have come through exercise and fitness. Um, and everybody kind of shows up in their own space. Some of us like are really competitive and like to race a lot. Some people just like to, you know, I don't know, go on a couple walks, which I think is awesome. And I shouldn't say just, but it really is everybody shows up who they are and their support for that. And I think that's really amazing. And I think one of the cool things to go back to running is how fast I run does not impact how fast you run. And like how great I do does not mean you need to do worse. So I think we all just can cheer each other on in a very real way. And I think as a mom of daughters, having this group of women that surrounds them who look different, who do different things is so wonderful that that's just like what their world is. Um, I feel very lucky to have that as a mom too.
Well, you already know this about me, but I definitely see fitness and exercise as a vehicle for community and
Yeah,
just taking in this bigger picture of our wellness. And I think it's the antidote to diet culture. And it's the antidote to like this sort of like breaking away from this scarcity mindset. And like there is enough for all of us, and we can all be performing in our own lane, in our own way, bringing our own gifts, and it's not detracting from anyone else. And when we give a voice to those, things that shame us or things that stop us from doing things that are challenging, and we have a community of women that we can go, oh, shit, me too. Like, oh
hmm
my God, I feel that way too. It takes the shame away. It just
yeah,
dispels it. And like, we don't have to operate in these communities of like competitiveness with each other
right.
and lose our own competitiveness. We don't have to, feel ashamed that we, fell off of our diet or can't stick to our diet, or, we can share openly and honestly. And it's not just about exercise and nutrition as a way to look a certain way in the world. It's like a way to show up in your life more fully and heal your mind and heal your heart and give you access to so much support, so
Yeah.
much support. So, yeah, I hear you there. Definitely hear you there. Okay, so let's pivot back to some doctoring.
Okay.
So, I had already known you for a few years. You had helped me with some medical advice here and there, but in 2024, it was before 2024. I had already seen like my old primary about like extreme PMS symptoms and extreme fatigue. He put me on Ritalin. I took Ritalin for like 3 days and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It was not the answer. I was, having really bad bleeding. My OB recommended an ablation. That was fantastic. Still see that OB, fantastic recommendation. I don't know why it's not more readily offered to women that are done having children. Um, but I'm not a doctor. So, but I just know I'm always like, well, why don't you get an ablation? Have you asked your doctor about ablation? And then I, then around 2024, the things like the extreme fatigue, not being able to sleep, was getting worse and worse. I started having like really bad like night sweats and even like night terrors. I was getting weird belly fat. My joint pain was insane. And like nothing had changed. Like I'm not super regimented with my nutrition, but I'm eat sort of the same things. And nothing had really changed with my nutrition. My exercise regimen's been the same for a decade. I'm not really trying to gain or lose weight, but I had just been sort of maintaining for quite a while. And all of that shifted. I was putting on belly weight. I was having like elbow pain. I was having ringing in my ears. I was having itching in my ears. And I came to you because that was around the same time that there had been a huge ramp up in sort of revisiting this women's health initiative trial from the early 90s. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of us middle-aged women were getting bombarded with podcast episodes and like new, not just influencers, but doctors who were infiltrating the influencer space to sort of talk about how hormone replacement had kind of gotten a bad rap for 30 years. And it might be time to revisit that. So I came to you and you were really helpful in that space. And I did start hormone replacement and have been on it for about a year and a half, like a low dose estrogen patch and progesterone. And it has been, like they've already heard me say on here, life changing. So I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about that study, that Women's Health Initiative trial from the 90s, and sort of how that got conflated and misconstrued.
Yeah, so I will say I don't think it's going to come as a shock to anybody that there's not a lot of research and in this aspect of women's health. Perimenopause is not something that I mean, we like talked about. We knew what it was when I was in med school, which was not that long ago. Um, but this is this is something that has really been in the cultural milieu a lot. I think a lot of it is that there is social media. And I think a very positive thing is that women do talk about what they're experiencing. And I think, which is great. Because I think in a lot of different areas, women, I mean, just kind of suffer in silence or like what I'm experiencing just like is what it is. Sometimes that's true. A lot of times it's not. And so I think it's great that women are starting to talk to each other. They're asking questions and it's really spurred that there is more research that's going on in this area. It's a relative statement because I think there was like very minimal research in this area. So this would be an area that I would say, for me, I think for a lot of us, we're continuing to learn a lot more about because there just hasn't been that much data to guide us. So the Women's Health Initiative, um, as a study, if you go back and look at it, at some of its limitations, one of the big limitations is the average age of the women in this study were in their early 60s. And so when we talk about women in perimenopause, I mean, we're talking about women in their 40s. And then this study was about women in menopause. And so a lot of times, like that may be early menopause within your 50s. These women, again, were older. Um, and so at in their early 60s, typically menopause is done. So menopause is defined as you haven't had a period for a year. So a lot of these women's were past and like I would say like a bit past where their menopause started. And so when they talk about some of the things the study brought up is heart disease, that's a big one. Breast cancer is another one. I mean, when you look at as any people get older, men and women, we know their risk of heart disease goes up. So when you're talking about somebody who is 63 versus 53, there's going to be, whether you're on estrogen or not, a difference in your risk of heart disease. So that's one limitation is that these people in the study were older. The women in the study were older. They also used the type of estrogen they used was a conjugated equine estrogen. Um, we don't really use that too much now. Most of the estrogen that we use now is a synthetic estrogen that's derived from plants. Um, and so it's just a different hormone, a different type of estrogen that was used then versus now. So it's hard to extrapolate these findings to younger women. The hormone they used was different. So, like you said, you're on a patch. So the way a patch is metabolized, that hormones metabolized versus oral is different. So that also changes what the side effect profile looks like. It changes like your risk of blood clots. They're higher when you take something orally than if you take a patch. Um, and then they also talked a lot about relative risk rather than absolute risk. And I don't want to have a statistics lesson here. But when you talk about relative risk, it makes it seem a lot bigger than when you look at somebody's individual risk. So it's not that the information was misrepresented, but the way that it was represented makes it sound a lot scarier for the kind of day-to-day um, person. So, I mean, the study was not bad. I think just like with all studies, you have to look at it in the context of who are we talking about, what was given, and then how do we extrapolate that to what we know now. So the medication is a lot different than it was then. Um, just to kind of give you some numbers, when you talk about women who are like 50 to 59, I just pulled some numbers from some studies. So, the risk of coronary artery disease, so heart disease, it is very slightly increased. When they looked at 1,000 women in 5 years of hormone use, you had 2.5 extra additional cases for people who were using estrogen and progesterone compared to not.
So
Breast
these are
cancer,
like paper
so they're
thin.
little.
Yeah.
They're little. And it is a risk. And I
Yes.
think it's really important when you hear this podcast or any podcast or TikTok video or read a study is you take that information and then you have a conversation with your doctor about your personal health and your risk factors, because these are like generalized numbers. It's really important to talk about your specific health stuff so that you can talk about your risks and
Well,
benefits.
certainly your medical history, what your has happened with your mother, your grandmother, if you're at a higher risk for certain things already, then you're probably
Yep.
going to be one of these 2.5 out of 1,000. Like it makes that risk higher for
Yeah,
you than it does for somebody that doesn't have it in their genetic
exactly.
makeup.
Exactly.
And then there's also a balancing of like risk reward. Like you still then might say the symptoms I'm living with are hampering my lifestyle, are have got me so off track, so unable to function in the world in the way that I would like to, that it's a risk I'm willing to take. You're balancing that risk reward. Like, okay, I might have a slightly higher risk of heart disease or blood clot or whatever, but like I can't live like this. So maybe we just
Exactly.
monitor me more closely, or we start with like a very, very small dosage and see if that can even just slightly make me feel better. And I think that's where it becomes really important that you have a GP that you can really get some time with and really talk through those things with. I think
Yeah,
also what happened, correct me if I'm wrong, but also with the Women's Health Initiative, the media sort of caught wind and just like
of course.
grossly misrepresented the data, and
Yeah,
that just became like gospel. And it wasn't even the doctors or the people or the researchers that worked on it that were giving the information to the people. The media became this in between, and they're in no way qualified to be communicating this information to the general public, and it got just treated as something that it wasn't, and just be very it seems very similar to things that happen now
I
with,
was just gonna say,
with
I
the
feel like
media.
that is the story of a lot of research, right? And so, like even talking about relative versus absolute risk, those are two very different things. And so, if you don't understand what that means, or someone doesn't explain that what that means to you, that can really misrepresent what the data is actually showing. And so, I think that's a really important thing across all media platforms is to kind of take what you hear. I mean, you can learn about it, but then I think it's important to really engage with your healthcare provider to talk about what that means for you for this exact reason, because what the media says is what the media says, or like what your TikTok person said is what they said, and what your neighbor said is one thing. So like really having that conversation with your doctor is
So
important.
there
Hormone,
was an
it's,
OB. There was an OB in the lobby the other day, and she was talking about this distinction between information and education.
yep.
And she was talking about she had a patient come in that kept like saying, well, I don't even remember what it was she was claiming to have, or I have, let's just say it was ADHD. Well, I'm ADHD, I'm ADHD, I'm ADHD. And she was like, oh, when it was a new patient, she's like, when were you diagnosed? And she was like, well, I wasn't. I asked ChatGPT. And she had just like put this diagnosis on herself. So I think what you're saying about like bring the information to a medical professional that you trust,
Yeah.
and it's not like it's bad to do your own research or to find your own information, but when you're diagnosing yourself or you're treating yourself based off of the internet and you don't have a professional as an intermediary to help you navigate those things, that's when we're we're losing the benefit of the education with the information that you are certainly welcome to go research on your own, but then find somebody who has the education to help you decide how to use that information.
Yep. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, that's okay. I'm just going to take
That's all
you on
right.
to something
Sorry.
else. If you get it back, let me know and we can pivot. But specifically, you were talking about when you ingest estrogen orally, like a birth control pill, it
Hmm.
affects you differently than wearing a patch. So there's like, and then there's also like the whole bioidentical hormone thing.
Yeah.
That's more like, what's it called? Like concierge services.
So I share some of my thoughts on that?
That's exactly where I want to go. I want to understand more, like, because women will be like, well, I didn't respond to birth control well at all. So I really don't want to do an estrogen patch. And those two don't really go together. And I know you specifically told me, like, don't go get a pellet. Let's do the patch. And that wasn't a hard sell for me because I am not in a financial situation to pay for all of this out of pocket anyway, nor do I want to. I have really good insurance and I feel like this should just be a part of what's included in my healthcare. So I mean, I had sort of like a, I don't know, like a moral stance on wanting to use my insurance for this.
Sure.
Like we shouldn't be having to pay out of pocket to feel like we can function in the world past the age of 45. So anyway, I'm rambling. So you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna take one step back, and then I'm gonna talk about the term bioidentical hormones and kind of what that means. So
Okay.
I will say, so I'm very academic. I really like evidence-based medicine. There isn't a ton of evidence in this space. I would say it's really an evolving space. And so one of the things that has been, I would say, a struggle, and thinking about coming out of this podcast was a little bit of a struggle for me, is when you really look at the guidelines for women who are perimenopausal, we should be the guidelines recommend using oral contraceptives. So that's like a birth control pill with estrogen and progesterone in it, to treat those perimenopausal symptoms. And then once you're in menopause, transitioning that to hormone replacement therapy, which is still using estrogen and progesterone, but they're in these kind of different formulations. And so, one of the things that has been challenging for me is that, you know, I try to approach things in a curious space, like I said, thinking about risk benefit. And I have seen anecdotally, personally, with my patients, that there are a number of perimenopausal women that do that little bit of extra estrogen that you're getting from a patch or from a pill, that's less than you would get in a birth control pill, really does make an improvement in their lives. And so it was hard for me to say, like, let's try this other thing that's really for menopausal women, for someone who's perimenopausal, because it was not guideline based, but I really have seen it be so beneficial. And from a risk benefit standpoint, I think for me, I thought, why am I going to give someone more estrogen when they can get a benefit from a smaller amount. So that's kind of
Okay,
how I've approached this.
this is new information to me. So like, I mean, I can share whatever I want. It's my podcast. I'm on like a
Yes,
level 2 patch. So it's 0.0375
that's a
is the
baby
amount,
patch
a baby patch. So that's less than I would get from like your standard birth control
from
pill.
certain birth control pills. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the thought is that it's too low to make a difference, like, which I get. I mean, I
Anecdotally,
get that, but it does. But it does.
anecdotally, it is making a difference.
I know. And I feel like, so that's something that I feel like I'm just, I think the data is going to come. I think we're learning more about it. And I feel like, people's quality of life is massively improved. And so I think the risk benefit to that is, I get it. So that's why I do that. So this bioidentical hormone situation, I thought was really confusing because I was like, what does that mean, bioidentical hormone? So what that means is it is a hormone that has the same structure as a hormone that's produced in your body. So like that's what you're getting. The hormone, the
Estradiol.
estrogen that you're getting is
Estradiol.
that.
Yeah.
However, this term bioidentical hormone has kind of taken on its own meaning in culture. And so when you hear the term bioidentical hormone kind of thrown around, or like there's a lot of these clinics that you hear about on the radio, um, it's referring to this compound that's like a custom made compound. And it's like made for you with multiple hormones based on your hormone monitoring. I think one of the reasons that people turn to this is that they're not able to get hormones or get relief from their doctor. And so sometimes, I mean, what I've seen is like women are like desperate. They feel horrible. They want to feel better, and they just want to feel better. So sometimes I'm like, I feel like if I was like paint your body blue and run around your house 5 times and you'll feel better, they would do it. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I just think that they're miserable. I mean, I have not been through perimenopause, but I went through puberty, and I would give it a 0 out of 5 stars for experience. And so um, I think there's this sense of desperation, and I feel like a lot of these clinics kind of like, to be totally frank, like prey on that. You have to pay out of pocket. It's expensive. Um, and it feels good. Like it's like, oh, my levels are going to get checked. But like really, it really should be off your symptoms. So like if you're feeling bad, how do we figure out what's going on with you? If it is hormone based, then we treat you based on your symptoms. We don't treat you based on numbers. And so I actually looked this up because I know a number of societies don't support this. And I wanted to actually quote the ones that don't support this kind of like customized hormone preparation. So the Menopause Society, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, the Endocrine Society advise against using these custom compounds. And I think a big reason around that is because there's a lack of quality control around it. So there have been studies that have shown that when you look at these preparations, what's listed on the bottle or on the jar can vary wildly from a too high or too low of potencies. Um, there's no trials that show that these like custom compounds are better or even equal to the regulated medications we have. There's no regulatory oversight, and there's no like requirement for any like package inserts or talking about risks and benefits. And so that makes me, and I think these societies will like feel nervous because you don't necessarily know what you're getting.
Okay.
So, and also with the pellets, I'm never a fan of putting extra things into your body that you can't get out.
Mm. Well, and then I think that also just presents more opportunities for it to not work. Like you're
Right.
like
Right.
everybody that's like getting their breast implants taken out now. It's like, oh, this is
Yes.
what's been making me feel so miserable all this time because I have a foreign object that my body doesn't recognize that it's trying to attack. Like, and when you're already feeling so shitty, one would
Yeah.
think introducing another thing for your body to try and deal with. I mean, and I know, I mean, I know personally some women who have these pellets and they're having like really great success with them, and I'm happy for them. It was not the right choice for me, as I said, because just like I don't even know what the word is. I guess I was just like on a like a I want my insurance to pay for it. Like I
Yeah,
want
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I just feel bad because I really do. And I don't have any judgment for anyone who goes there. I want to be very clear about that. I have no judgment on that. I just feel like there are a lot of women who they just want to feel better. And
correct.
like, we should be able to help them feel better. I'm not saying that everyone should get hormones. So, like, if your doctor's not giving you hormones, that's a problem. Like, again, that's between you and your provider. But I feel like we should be able to help you, and you shouldn't feel like you have to go out and pay on your own and kind of be like out on this island trying to deal with it yourself.
Well, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier, like where information meets
Yep.
education. So, like, you can go out and have wine with your girlfriends, or even just, I mean, I tell people, if there's a study that I need to enter to help support more research for women in perimenopause and using the patch, I'll enter it.
I'll contact you.
I will do whatever I can to get this information out. And I am not a doctor, but I mean, like you just told me, I spoke to a woman recently that's like, well, hormone replacement isn't an option for me because I was on birth control when I was like 22 and there was like a cluster of blood clots in my leg. And I'm like, well, I think, again, not a doctor, but you should talk to your doctor or a different doctor or several doctors, because I think the estrogen that is in birth control might be a different type of estrogen, or it might be different than what they were putting in them now. And that, like, the patch, your body might process it in a different way. I'm like, just, I don't know. I don't know if you would be a candidate for it, but I mean, I'm out there telling everybody. I talked to a woman this morning. She's like, I'm 45. I'm gaining weight. I'm working out the same amount I always have been. And I'm like, here I am again, like a broken record. Like, I don't know if you should be on hormone replacement or not, but it's worth a conversation with your doctor. And she's like, well, should I just have them run blood work? And I'm like, well, my doctor
No.
told me we're diagnosing off of symptoms because your estrogen can be all over the place from like one day to the next. So what are we doing? Like running blood work every day to see like what your levels look like from day to day. And also, like, my daughter at 45 might feel fine at the amount of
Correct.
estrogen in her body that I have right now, but I have that amount of estrogen and I don't feel fine. So if I could benefit from more, and I'm just right now just regurgitating things that you've said to me. But anyway, yeah, I
I think
think
too, I will say, I mean, we are getting older. So I don't think it's like we should all like, that's it, you're old, this is it. I do think though too, like there is like the realistic expectations. It is rare to go a week where a woman sits in my office and doesn't say like, but let's say they're 60, but like I just feel different than I felt when I was 40. Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course you feel different than you felt when you were 40. I feel different than I felt when I was 20. And so I think part of it is like we do feel different. Aging is
correct.
like normal and so I think there is also finding that balance of like having a good quality of life, feeling good, but recognizing that like our bodies are changing and they're different and that is an okay thing.
Well, I will say being able to feel better and more consistently better, where it's not like every day I wake up and I'm like, what's it going to be today? I got 8 hours of sleep. Am I going to feel exhausted anyway? Or I got 3 hours of sleep, but I'm just going to be like a freaking crackhead, like moving through the world. When I got everything sort of regulated, I realized maybe we're so fucking tired because all of the expectations we are putting on ourselves from exterior sources. And it has really activated my I don't give a fuck. And if I don't get the house clean because I'm tired and I took a nap instead, try to step to me about it. Like, no,
Yeah,
I didn't get everything done on my list because it wasn't physically possible for me today because there were too many things on the list and I'm not sorry about it.
right.
Like,
And
so
that
when
doesn't
you,
mean that there's medically something wrong with you. I think that's the
right,
other part is like there's a lot of other stuff that contributes to like how we feel. We're always on screens. our brains don't ever turn off. We're trying to do 600 things. Like I can check my email and pick up my dogs from the groomer and like do my Amazon return all at the same time. Why do I need to do all three things at once?
Right.
Like,
And these 60 something women are also on their screens seeing these
yeah,
AI
yes.
women that look un like no way. Like you're just your expectation for yourself is, I don't want to say your expectation is too high, but it's like just like give
I
yourself a
think we
break.
need to give, yeah, I think we need to give ourselves some grace. And
Yeah.
like belly fat's a great example. It is normal for your fat to redistribute after you go through menopause. Like
Mm,
women all the time will be like, but I've never had anything on my belly before. I'm like, that's correct.
mm,
Because you've never been in menopause before. Like, and that is okay. Our body shapes change, and I think that is okay. And that goes, I think, back to that idea of having like a group of women and being able to share things of like what's normal and what's not normal. What should I do
mm.
something about? And what is like this is, you know, I will say I did just turn 40, and the number of people that were like, but do you mean 21? And I was like, absolutely not.
No, you could not
No,
pay
thank
me.
you.
You could
I
not
wouldn't
pay me
mind.
to
I
go
wouldn't
back to
mind the running
21.
recovery of a 20-year-old body. That I would be very into, but that's pretty much it.
Oh God. Okay, so when it comes to women advocating for themselves in medical situations, so if somebody is like me, but they aren't in a situation where they just have a doctor in their class every morning at 5 a.m. or their personal phone number that someday you might take away from me because I text you about professional things all the time. What do they do? What do they do to find somebody, even if hormone replacement isn't the answer,
Hmm.
but we'll just take the time to work through it and find that out? And that's not even just in regards to hormone replacement. I think women in general. What
Yeah.
are like two or three pieces of advice you can give women to find doctors and medical support that takes their pain seriously, that takes their symptoms seriously? Go.
One, there's a huge shortage of primary care doctors. So I will say in my own clinic, I have an incredible, incredible group of nurse practitioners. And I think that sometimes people feel like, well, I need to see a doctor, not a nurse practitioner. I mean, they are different. But I think that is a really incredible, my group of NPs is fabulous. And I would recommend anybody to see them. And so I think it can be really frustrating to find a primary care provider, period. So being open to seeing a nurse practitioner widens your net. That's not really my advice. That's just an FYI. I think everybody deserves somebody who will listen to them, who will listen to their story, um, who will approach it with a space of curiosity, who really wants to understand what they're saying. I think everybody deserves a provider who's going to be honest with them. We're not magical. Like, we don't have the answers. I have definitely sat across from patients and told them, like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Like, here are the things that we can look at. Here's what I think we can do with those results. And sometimes it takes a while for us to figure it out. Um, that doesn't mean that your provider is bad. Like getting an answer is not always going to happen, which is kind of shitty. Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed
Yeah,
to say shit?
I
Okay.
dropped like three F bombs earlier.
Oh, okay.
You
But
didn't
so like,
even notice.
no, I didn't even notice. I feel like for me, like one of the things I say to my patients is like, I don't know. One, if you want to get a second opinion, I always support that. And two, but we will like continue to be on this journey together. And like as new things come up, we will like investigate those and go down that path. And I think that's really frustrating when you want an answer and you want to feel better. Um, but we don't always have it. That and like that is my most honest statement. But I think you should find somebody who you feel comfortable that listens to you.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, if you feel like the person isn't listening to you, whether they have an answer or not, I feel like I'd be like, but you're not even listening. Um, I think that's one of the biggest things. I think if you can get recommendations from somebody else, as somebody that's worked well with them, I think that's great. Whether it's your doctor, your dentist, your therapist, your hairstylist. Shout out to Kim on literally, I have the best hairstylist.
I just
Um,
saw her last week. We were talking about
she's literally the best. Um, But I think that's my biggest piece of advice is it's worth finding somebody who listens to you. The number of people I would say who I talk to who are like, well, I don't really like my doctor, but like it's fine. Don't like get rid of them. It's like a job. I wouldn't get rid of your current job until you get a new job, but it's worth looking around to find somebody who you feel like actually listens to you. Because then no matter what, at least I feel like it's somebody that you trust is really has your best interest at heart and is working for you.
Well, that's good to know about the nurse practitioners at your office because you've cut me off.
They're amazing.
I keep
They're
trying to send
amazing.
you people, and you're like, I'm done. No more. You weren't taking new patients when you took me on. And then I think I got you to take like three more people, and you're like, it's enough. I'm done.
I had to shut it down. I will say though, my plug for them is all of the family members I have that come to my clinic see nurse practitioners.
Okay.
So they're amazing. I cannot speak to how great they are.
Well, and I've heard this before. It is like a new shift in the new ish
Yeah.
in the
And like doctors, not all NPs are created equal. Same thing with physicians. I mean, I would say that's absolutely true. Um, but I think sometimes people don't want to see them just because they're not a doctor. And I think that then you miss out on a group of people who could really help you.
cool, cool. All right. Well, let's talk about momming girls, being girl moms. You have the coolest names for your girls,
My
Willa
kids
and
are cool.
Odie.
You have an old lady too. You have an old
Yeah.
lady kid too.
Edna. Edna's 14.
I know it's weird, man. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old. I have to say they're epically cool. Gertie is who I wanted to be when I was 12. Like she's good at sports. She's funny. She's a knockout. Like that is who I wanted to be. I was not as cool as her. And then Willa is the kindest, most loving human being with aspirational self-confidence. I would like to have the self-confidence that she has, and I hope she never loses it, but they're pretty awesome.
Well, and would you say, like, as a woman in the medical industry, raising girls, I mean, I would just like it if you could talk a little bit how you're like just personally invested in sort of shifting this landscape for medical care for women. Like when you're seeing your daughters coming up, like, I mean, I think the shift is happening, but it's undeniable that, like, historically, our pain has not been taken as seriously. Our symptoms have not been taken as seriously. Like, how do you feel? Like, does it excite you to see these changes? Do you wish they were happening faster? Are you happy with the pace? Like, sort of as a mother of girls, how does that sort of affect you professionally and this shift?
I think healthcare for women is a very hot topic now. And I don't want to go like too political, but I think traditionally, I think women haven't been taken in seriously in all the ways. So, I mean, great. I would
Mm-hmm.
like for us to be taken seriously. I think it's important that women feel comfortable that they can speak up, that they can have communities of support. Um, I think that they're I think that's important. I think it's also important to think about like I don't know, like I mean, even and you talked about this with Marge, like when we talk about women's health, there's like the hormone piece and stuff, but I also feel like there's, we're going backwards in body image now with these, GLP-1 medications, which are incredible medications, I will say, really amazing, very highly abused. I feel like the conversation is very quickly shifting from healthy back to skinny, which I hate. I mean, my kids have brought Ozempic up to me. What is it? Who should be using it? What do you think about it? A 10-year-old shouldn't be asking their mom that. Um, so I think the bigger concern to me around health, like I think the research is going to come in this space, which is great. I hope. I have a lot of concerns about women's healthcare in general and our ability to have autonomy over our own bodies, which is all I will say about that. But I think my biggest concern is like it's awesome to talk about protein. It's awesome to talk about lifting. Nobody talked about that. I feel like though we also are still talking about being skinny as like a pillar of health, which I hate
Mm-hmm.
and like breaks my heart. I will say Roe, which is one of these online companies that does GLP-1s, Serena Williams is one of their spokespersons, which devastates me. because she is like a bomb ass athlete who has won so many tennis championships, and she's like a beast.
Hmm.
She's super muscular, and like it breaks my heart that she is touting weight loss medication. And not in the context of and healthy eating and lifting and
Hmm.
cardiovascular fitness, none of that. So that makes me feel sad.
So I guess we're seeing a push pull, which makes sense. Like
Yep.
women were getting louder and getting frustrated and advocating for themselves. And now we have this underlying piece that's like, let's make them smaller and quieter. So it's not going to be just a general, like, I guess just because of where I'm at personally in my journey, I'm like, I'm so excited that I was able to find somebody who would help me. I want everybody
Yeah.
to have that. And it feels like such a positive thing in my life that, yeah, there's always going to be that counterbalance where it's going to try to be shut down.
And I would say too, just because you don't get what you want from your doctor doesn't mean, it can mean, but it doesn't always mean that like that's wrong. I think sometimes that gets
I hear
misconstrued
you.
too. Does that
I
make
hear you.
sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's another piece of this. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are paying out of pocket that are getting really, really great quality
Hmm.
medical care. And I commend you and I'm happy that you have that option. But I also think the other side of that is that it's become a space where people can just mail order whatever it is that they
Yes.
want. And then they're functioning from that information place and it's lacking the education. So they're saying, okay, this TikToker or this person or that person said they're on this and I want to be on this too. So I'm going to go to this website and I'm going to order it and do this sort of like fake checklist of appointments where I could even lie about what my medical
Yeah.
history is. I mean, I guess you can lie to your doctor about your medical history too. But anyway, yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. And yeah, it's not about just going to your doctor to be like, this is what I want and getting it.
Correct.
You have
Correct.
to open up the space for them to say, I understand that's what you want. Here's the reasons why I think this option's better. Or here's why I think that's not a safe option for you.
Which is why I think at the end of the day, having somebody you trust and can have those real conversations with is
Mhm.
really that's like it. That's the like dream relationship. And I would say going both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a few more things I wanted to talk about, but I feel like I have kept you long enough and I feel like we need to not, I just need to have you back again.
Great. We
And
can do a
we'll-
whole, you want to do a whole podcast on my divorce?
sure.
Can I just say one thing about that?
I do because I think it ties back to what we were talking about earlier too. We were going to kind of pivot into you talking more about what you've been going through personally the past couple of years, and I have the time if you would like to. Um, but just the big thing that stood out to me when you were going through your divorce is that you were dealing with people at your school, at your kids' school, and they kept calling you Mrs. instead of Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
You were like it going through. Anyway, what were you going to say? I want you
So
to
what
say.
I would say, so this was a big left turn. That's what my boss would say. This was a big left turn, very unexpected. I would say, so my dad passed away suddenly when I was in high school. This was by far the divorce was the worst experience of my life. It is the darkest I have ever felt. It's the most alone I've ever felt. It was horrible. And I think that one of the things, probably the biggest thing that brought me through it is the incredible, I would say, shout out. I have some really great guy friends who are wonderful. So I want to acknowledge that. But really was the incredible, incredible group of women in my family, in my friend group, people who were kind of like work colleagues, who literally um, got me out of bed, got me off the bathroom floor, showed up at my house with food, texted me on the regular, what have you eaten today? Do you want me to bring you some food? I am bringing you food and I'm going to sit here and watch you eat it. Um, without that community, I do not know how I would have gotten through it. And I think that one of the other huge things is that there were several women who really opened up with their own experience of going through this and how dark it was for them, and knowing that people got on the other side of it. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I felt like I was in this like giant ocean, swimming and swimming and swimming and like getting nowhere, but like with the hope of land on the other side because people told me it was there. Um, and like that community really got me through that, and learning to ask for help because I had to. Um, and so like I wanted to say it because I just like, for anybody who is going through that, you will get to the other side. You will survive it. I think that's, if I could go back in time to say one thing to myself, it wouldn't be like you can do it or like you'll get you will survive. Like, all you need to know, you will survive. Um, and you'll show up on the other side and your life will look a lot different. I mean, I'm in the early stage of this. It looks a lot different and I still feel sad about the life I thought that I was going to have. Um, but I feel very happy and I feel very like I've never felt this myself in my whole life. And so, like, as Margaret would say, because she's my life coach on the side, this is a yellow door moment. Like, it's the door that you walk through that really seems like the worst. Um, but then there's a lot of positive stuff that can come out of it. So you'll survive, you'll get on the other side, and there's a lot of people, if you're lucky, like I was really lucky, there were a lot of people that really held me up and continue to do so. So that was my lesson from that horrific experience.
Well, I appreciate you talking about that and opening up about that because I feel like a lot of the women that listen to this may be in some stage of that process. You know, maybe even just considering divorce or thinking that they can't take that step because what will that look like? Or they're, on their bathroom floors and think that they're
Yeah.
never going to get off of it. And we've talked before about, you know, the way, like you said, the way you thought your life was going to look. And I feel like that we come across that multiple times throughout our lives. And I think that even when you take on something like a divorce, the way you thought your divorce was going to look, the way you thought people were going to be able to show up for you and couldn't, and then you're able to find work colleagues or the random person in the workout class next to you or
Yeah.
whoever, that it's like, oh God, like I'm going to just go ahead and be vulnerable with this person that I just met because I really do need to eat. And they're just going to come in and see my messy house and bring me some food. And the beauty that comes out of that when you let people fully see you and show up for you.
I mean, that's spot on. And like, people shared a lot of stuff. People who I like thought we were like kind of just acquaintances, like really shared a lot of stuff, which
Mhm.
meant more to me than I could ever express.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I've said it before, my divorce was, I was in my late 20s. We did not have children. We were not married for very long, but it was still one of, if not the most devastating thing I've ever been through. And there there are people that I will hold in my heart, even if I'm not still close to them now, like just the people that will,
Yes.
you know, just bare their souls to you and tell, standing in the lobby of a gym, their most personal details of their
Yep.
lives because they know that you need to hear that and be held by them. And it speaks to also a phrase that I have become very, very attached to as of late. I am obsessed and in love with what's wrong with people. Like when people will show you like their ickiness or their darker sides, or like we all have it, right? Like it's the human condition. And like when people know my icky sides or I know other people's, darkness, and then you just encompass that and you love them even more because their humanity just becomes so
Yes.
much more like tangible to you. And it's like you
Yes.
can latch onto that. Like, oh my God, you want to veer into traffic sometimes too? Like,
Because
awesome.
it's real. It's
Yeah.
real. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I have like friends. I I still am like, I call and I'm like, I'm gonna now like talk to you for 1 hour about the same shit that I've talked to you about for the last, 18 months. And they just listen because that's like what, and that's it. I
Yeah.
just need somebody to listen and they get it. But you're exactly right. Like people sharing their vulnerabilities and like just putting it out there.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. That's why being 40 is so much better than being 21,
Absolutely.
right?
And my sister's in her 50s and it only gets better. Like you
Great.
get more and more and more of that authenticity and more and more and more of that openness. And I'm freaking here for it. I'm
I
here for it.
am real here for it. Agree.
All right. Well, I've loved having you here. I wanted to close with you giving some advice on how to find a good GP, but I feel like we already did that. And I am going to now recommend your practice and that people go to the nurse practitioners there. So,
They're
here in the
awesome.
St. Louis area, if you are looking for someone to listen to you and take you seriously, I have somewhere I can send you, offline, off the pod. Just text me or reach out to me on socials and I'll send you that information. And what's your next race?
Oh, well, I got pressured into signing up for this Chain of Rocks 6K. First of all, what is a 6K? It's stupid. And when I say pressured, I mean someone said, "Hey, do you want to do this race?" And I was like, "Okay." So I'm doing that Sunday. Then I'm doing Go on April 11th, which is so fun because it's like the city of St. Louis race. So like there's so many people that come out there. And then I would say my next like race that I'm training for is I'm doing the mini Indy half marathon first weekend of May. And then
Okay.
My Chicago Marathon's my big A+ race this year. So no injuries. No
No
injuries.
injuries. And the 6K is just going to be like a walk in the park for you, whatever that is.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be fun. So I'm
Yeah.
doing it with some people from my run club. So I mean, it was always fun. Like there's no better way to spend like a beautiful sunny morning than like outside running, I think.
And then the go is just like a big social event. So that's super fun.
Yes. Yes. And I'm running that with Steph, so that'll be like extra fun to run together. I mean, I pretty much signed up for anything.
Mm,
That's and with a t-shirt that I don't wear and definitely, with a medal. So it's a
you
really low bar. It's a really low bar.
you got to get that medal as long as there's a medal.
And a free t-shirt. Like there's what else is there?
All right. Well, when things kind of settle down and you can come take a class with me, I'd love to see you.
Sounds good.
And then otherwise, I guess I'll see you at my next yearly.
I'll
All about
I'll wait for your text. I'll wait for your text.
Yeah, okay. That may be about me or my child or my friend
Whatever.
or like take
Whatever.
your time.
You
You can
know.
get back to me whenever, but if you could give me this medical advice via text, that would be great. All right. Well, I love you so much. Best of luck on all your next races and have a wonderful sunny weekend here in St. Louis.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you
Bye,
later.
Jenny.
Bye.